One of my first videos I have explained why YouTube is one of the best resources, if not the best one, to find good quality content for language studying. And I've also shown you ways to find content that resonates with your interests and also has subtitles, so you can export it and study your target language. This time I'm going to share with you my top 5 Korean channels that I love to watch in order to study Korean. These are channels that I absolutely adore because they all have Korean subtitles that you can export, and they also offer good quality content, very compelling content that will make you stick to it. Of course, you know that I use Link, so I use the Link extension in order to export these kinds of videos. So what I do when I find a good quality YouTube video with Korean subtitles, I will click the button and it'll import it into my Link library so that I can watch the video, listen to the audio, and read at the same time. But you can also just export the subtitles and use a dictionary, an online dictionary, offline dictionary, to look for the words. So these channels will help your Korean learning adventure even without a Link subscription. You can use those videos however you want. Before we start, let me clarify that these 5 YouTube channels are not channels where you actually learn Korean, like the grammar and everything, and you get explanations and stuff. These are actually channels where you get to hear 100% natural Korean, because these are channels that make videos for Korean audience. So these are native kinds of videos. These are not videos made for foreigners, so you'll get to hear a super natural Korean. You won't get a watered down version of Korean. You'll actually get to hear how the language is really spoken, and that's super important, even at a beginner level, to always be immersed in the language and always listening to content that has transcripts so that you can read them and understand them better. So let's dive in. Here's my top 5. The first channel is called Studio V, and I love that channel because they have interviews about a whole range of topics. And first of all, I love learning languages through interviews because they are a great way to see how natural language actually is. So interviews are great for me in Korean because I get to hear a very natural kind of Korean from different people. So I can hear an interview that's done to a child or to a teenager, an adult, an elder person. So I can really see how Korean is spoken in different age gaps, which is super important because sometimes you're watching video with teenagers or adults and you get used to the way they speak, but then suddenly in a situation you get to speak to an elder person and you don't understand anything they're saying. And this is because you're not used to the way they speak. And in order to do that, you need, of course, to get a lot of exposure. So interviews are a great way to get that kind of exposure. At the same time, I love Studio V's videos because they talk about a whole range of topics that are kind of hot in South Korea right now. So you get to learn about the culture, about the society of South Korea, about the issues that they're facing right now, and that's a great way to learn. Also, if you're into kind of society, culture kind of videos, I would recommend you to look at yeongtongtv, which is kind of the same. It's videos about South Korean culture and South Korean society, but from the point of view of a North Korean. So it's basically a group of North Korean defectors who now live in South Korea, and they talk about the way they see South Korean society and how they've adapted to it coming from North Korea. This is also super interesting because some of the videos they actually talk about North Korea, and it's not that usual seeing videos about North Korea done by North Korean defectors in a very lighthearted, kind of fun way. So definitely check those out. Of course, these are going to be a little harder because these people speak South Korean, but sometimes some of them have a thicker kind of North Korean accent, so that might be a little difficult for beginners to understand. And this is also because we don't really have that much exposure to people speaking actually North Korean unless you actively go and look for those kinds of videos. But we're mostly surrounded by the South Korean dialect, so that that can be a little harder, but I would still recommend you to watch those videos because they're super interesting. Third channel is Surinoe. I can't explain how much I love this channel, and you'll soon know why. It's because they have, first of all, cat videos, and I mean, who doesn't watch cat videos and who doesn't love them? But the best thing is that they actually have dialogue. So here's a typical video. They take videos of their cats, and the human being who's behind the camera talks through those cats. And this is great beginner material. And I always suggest cat videos to people who are starting to learn a foreign language. Find cat videos in your target language, because when they're talking to cats, it's like talking to kids. So people use very short sentences with super easy grammar, super easy vocabulary, because it's like they're talking to their kids. And Surinoil has lots of those videos, and all subtitled in Korean. And this is great because when I was starting learning Korean, I used to watch a lot of those videos to get the super basic sentence structure and vocabulary down. So I wouldn't recommend this enough for you. Go ahead and download all the Surinoil subtitles and have fun watching those videos. If you are a Korean learner, there's a chance that you might enjoy watching Korean television. And for that, there's a channel called Snack or S-Snack. I don't know how it's pronounced because it's a play on words, but I don't know actually how they call it. But anyway, it's this channel right here. And this one is a YouTube channel from SBS, which is one of the main television broadcasting stations in South Korea. And they offer highlights of their best programs. So you have Running Man, you've got lots of super popular programs in South Korea, and they're all subtitled both in Korean and English. And this is one of my favorite ways because I'm a huge Running Man fan. And I just love taking their highlight videos, so it's like the short 10-15 minute video clips with Korean subtitles to study. And then last but not least, if you're into traditional kind of vlogs, more YouTube-y kind of content, and there's this great channel, it's called Dear Jerry, and she has great vlogs, great kind of videos, great visual, very aesthetic kind of videos, and her Korean is super easy to understand. So even if you're a beginner, you can still watch her videos and get a ton of vocab down. I've found that in lots of Korean vlogs, people just don't speak and they just put captions, but she actually speaks on camera, and she speaks in a very natural but still easy to comprehend Korean. So this is one of my top picks for you. So these are the best channels that I found for now in Korean that I've discovered. Let me know if you have other channels with transcripts in Korean here on YouTube that you would like to share. But also remember that I have a bigger list of resources that include not only YouTube channels but also ebooks, traditional books, podcasts, TV series, movies, and whatnot. So make sure to check my Korean resource list in the description down below. It's a free Google Doc that I update every time I find a new interesting resource for you, so make sure to check that out. And as always, if you've liked this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you're still not subscribed to the channel, make sure to click the subscribe button. Also, if you know a friend who's starting to learn Korean or who's struggling and wants to find better resources for their Korean, make sure to share them this video. And as always, have fun with language learning.